Hi, welcome back, and thank you so much for joining me in this third video of the three-part mini masterclass series. This one is all about adult learning principles, which is really important if you're in the business of teaching adults. And I'm going to tell you a little personal story. Before I was in corporate world and before I was an entrepreneur, I actually was a music teacher. I spent my entire adult life from a teenager all the way up until only a few years ago teaching violin to my students. And this was a great job. It was amazing because it got me into the teaching world and it got me into teaching adults. After about 8 to 10 years of that, my ears were getting a little bit tired of all of the stuff that comes along with teaching people how to play the violin. But nonetheless, I will never trade that time because it was so valuable to learn about how every person and every adult learns. And there's some really subtle things that are different than how children learn. And I want you to know these so that when you're creating your course, you can keep these in the back of your mind and you'll make sure that you're engaging your learners the way that adults like to learn. Throughout this journey that I've had of teaching and coaching and creating curriculum, I've learned a lot of ways and I've come up with a lot of really great activities and ideas about how to engage adults. And if you want your learning to stick, which I'm pretty sure you do, because again, remember, we all want results for our learners, then you've got to consider these adult learning principles whenever you're creating courses or training for your adult learner. I've created a list of 6 adult learning principles that you should consider whenever you're creating your training, and here they are. The first principle is self-directed. Adults love when they are in charge of the journey of their learning. Here's a quick example. Where do millions of people go every day to learn things? Big things, small things, and everything in between. They go to YouTube and they watch those YouTube videos to learn what they need to know when they need to know it, and it works really, really well. Why? Because adults are in charge of their learning and they get to take this at their own self-directed pace. One of the worst things that you can do for adults is to restrict their ability to move within your course or program. If they feel like they're out of control, adults are going to disengage completely. They need to be able to access that information when they need it because they have so much information coming at them all the time just from daily life. This is a really, really important part of the ways that adults like to learn. Number 2 is relevant. Adults need to know that what they're learning is relevant to their current situation or their life in some way. And if it's not relevant, they're going to completely ignore that information and they won't absorb it at all. When you're designing a program or an example, make sure that you're using something that's as close to your adult learner as possible. You want it to be close to their reality. And this is where having an ideal learner avatar can really, really help to make sure that your content is relevant. The third is practical. Most adults are very busy. So if they can't understand how this is going to be practical, make sense and logical, and add to their professional development in some way, again, it's going to fall flat. They won't engage and they're going to be disappointed if they purchased your program. Your adult learner is going to enjoy this training much more if they can see how it's directly related to something that they want to achieve. So if they have a promotion that they're gunning for at work, or if they want to learn something that's going to help advance their career, if it's practically related to them where they are, they're going to really resonate and they're going to enjoy your training really a lot. The fourth is goal-oriented. Your learning should be well organized and it should be in a flow that is directly connected to your learner's goals. Tell your audience what they can expect right up front so that it's well connected to their goals and their expectations are met. Again, coming back to your ideal learner avatar is a great way to make sure that you're connecting to the goals of your audience. The fifth principle is learn by doing. It is impossible to tell people how to do something if it's a new skill. They have to be able to practice that right away and they have to be able to learn that skill by doing it immediately. Your learning is going to fall flat and people won't remember if you save the experience part of your learning until a long ways after you've delivered that content. You want to make sure that you're connecting that skill practice right away with what you're telling people. It's important. If you send your learner away from your training and they have to go practice something a week later, they're going to forget everything. That information won't be in their brain at all. So make sure that you get people learning something and practicing immediately. Number 6 is to involve your learners. If you can get your learners working through your curriculum in a way where they feel like they have choice or they get to identify their own learning style being met, it's going to go a long way in how they enjoy your training and how they connect with it and how they engage. There are a number of ways that you can do this. When it comes to your video components, if you include subtitles, it can be really helpful because a learning style who doesn't want to listen, or if it's inconvenient for them to listen to the audio, they can actually read what you're saying and they'll be able to still learn just by reading. Provide your adult learners with something valuable that they can use right away, something like a worksheet or a template that they can get started and start exploring that new skill that you've been teaching them. Another great way to engage your adults is by asking them for feedback. And if you're in a position where you're teaching something online or live, you can get people to respond and to think about things and to actually use their voice, because the more that we can use our voice and we can reframe something in our own way, we're going to retain that information much more. Another amazing way to engage adults is through peer learning. And one of those ways that we can learn from each other is through discussion, through shared experiences, and through storytelling. It's incredible how much more we retain when we hear somebody explain their situation and tell us their story. Those things really make a lasting impact, and adults need to learn this way. So try to create that whenever you can in your learning. These are 6 principles that should give you food for thought whenever you are creating your new training. But hey, in keeping with the theme, I have to practice what I preach. So right after you watch this video, I want you to take a look at some of your content that you've already created and take a look and jot down some ideas where you could maybe infuse some of these 6 learning principles into your current training. If you are about to embark on a journey of creating your own program or course, why don't you download my guided workbook? I give you all the templates, all the tools and resources so that you don't have to make this up. You can learn from my experience, and you can look inside all the tools that I use whenever I'm working with my consulting clients and developing programs for them. Since all the resources are there for you, it's set up so that you don't have to know everything and keep it all in your head. You get to reference it exactly when you need it. Thank you so much for joining me in this mini masterclass series where I've been sharing some of my insider tips that are going to elevate your training, or it will help you get started in the right way, because I want you to be able to promise and deliver real results for your clients. And if this sounds like you want to know more and you want to be able to create your very own program through my step-by-step program, then register for my waitlist and get in on that opportunity where I will guide you step by step exactly through this entire process so that you may not know where to start, but by the end of the program, you will have something to show for it. You get to take your idea and bring it to life, and you'll have your very own program that you will be ready to sell.